I want to call it almost like an elephant in the room type topic, which is around savings. Um, you're already laughing because
I know exactly what you're going to ask me.
it's one of these things where, and we talk about this all the time in the company. There's a whole man, there's a whole slew of things that we have to think about. So the first thing is that there is not an incentive for savings,
Yeah.
right? Salespeople go out, they sell a $10 million contract. Not only are they getting so many high fives that day that their hand is sore, but they're getting a commission, 10% bonus. Now, if you go to procurement and you say, hey, like, you can go and save $100 million, not only do you not get a commission, but people might look at it and actually, it might be an indictment of your previous work, right? Like, why was there opportunity to save? And so there isn't really an incentive around creating savings. It doesn't really land with folks. Like people don't really want to. I feel like it's sort of weird. I feel like at some level they really want to talk about savings and savings generation because it is at some level core to the role of procurement. Like we want to be able to get the best value for the right product for the business. But at some level, people never want to talk about it. And if there's any question about like, hey, are we paying fair prices? Those things can get very uncomfortable for people to talk about. And we want to very quickly look at anything but. So I just, and I'm telling you, savings does not sell software. I know that firsthand. Tell me about like the idea of, I'm just throwing a few things at you, but how do you think about savings? How do CPOs talk about savings? Is it real? I mean, there's a lot in here, and maybe a good place to start is what do you think the question that I was going to ask was going to be?
You just explained the whole thing, but typically the question is why did nobody care about savings, or why does nobody believe savings?
Okay, but a lot of people talk about that. So let's now go one level deeper.
All of us are procurement people in our personal lives. Let's just go back to that. I take out a loan. I have $50,000 to remodel my house, just arbitrarily. Not here in the Bay Area. That doesn't.
Yeah,
that'll get you a.
you're just want to level set that you're in the category of people that have a home, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So already the idea of taking out a $50,000 loan to fix the house is
Well, okay, that's
and I'm just joking. It just
yeah.
not in the Bay Area.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Although when you exit, then you'll be able to buy up in pack ice here.
I think you mean exit the city.
So all of us are procurement people in our own
Yeah.
in our own world. So if you're going to buy a new car, and are you going to buy used, or are you going to buy new? Because the first question you're going to ask is, well, as soon as a car is a depreciating asset, so I drive it off the lot, it's just taking $2,000 off the value.
Yeah.
Maybe you're okay with that because a new car is not going to have maintenance issues, and you're balancing your time against.
Yeah.
You walk in and the dealer's going to offer you 15% APR, like interest rate, and you're like, I'll come in with my own loan. So really, when it gets to buying a car, there's three sort of levers. There's, do you have a trade-in? Because do you need financing? And do you need the amount of down payment? Of course, the sales folks in the car dealer know that. So you're going to trade in a car, I'm going to undercut you on that, but give you a great interest rate, or vice versa. Or I'll give you a ton of money for your used car, but I'm going to charge you a higher interest rate. But if I walk in with a pile of cash and say, I want that car for $2,000, like the sticker says $20,000, I'm going to give you $16,000 in cash right now. That salesperson might entertain that,
yeah.
or we might get to 17. Is that not just procurement, like straight up? And the reason I would offer that money up front, or try not to get into a long-term loan with high interest rates, is because I only have so much money coming in each month. And so I don't spend that extra money on the car, or if I get a $50,000 loan to remodel my house, if I pick a slightly different, the carpet's cheaper than the linoleum, well, that's a $5,000 savings. So now I have $5,000 more to do new faucets or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm making these trade-offs. We do this every day in everything. I leave here, I'm going to go get a coffee. And so, but if or an espresso, and because I live at a coffee shop, as you know, Compton's around the corner that I love, that's $5, $6, $7. That
Yeah.
$7, if I save that, then, and as a trade-off, and I'm making a financial trade-off because my monthly salary doesn't change. I get my salary or biweekly, and so if I'm going to, like, that amount of money is not going to change. So I either spend less or I get a second job and make more, which is not going to happen given where I'm at. So how is that why is it that when we walk into P&G, all of a sudden, like, I'm going to negotiate the savings? The reason this doesn't work is when I save money on the car or the floor or whatever, that money is going to benefit me. I'm not necessarily going to save it and put it in the bank. I'm saving the money, or I'm avoiding the cost by going and getting the latte. I'm still spending that money somewhere. And that's the difference. And I can wrap my head around that because we all, to some degree, whether deliberately or not, manage our finances.
Of course, yeah.
And so when we go to the big organization, that buying decision gets abstracted.
Right.
The engineers kind of just pass it off to procurement, and procurement's like, well, it's not my money. I'm just doing the best I can. And if I save that $100 million, it probably, as you rightly said, comes back of, well, were you really doing your job?
Yeah.
And if I save that, like, that money is probably just going to get spent elsewhere.
Right.
So I'm not really much like we do in our personal lives. And so then how am I measured? Like, so why did I do that?
So what's the fix though? Because I think you've identified a very clear issue, right? Which is that people don't treat the corporate spend like they do their own money. And it's not even like it's a little bit different. It's like, it's way different. Two sides of the entire universe. And the reason that salespeople treat the sale as if it's their own money is because it becomes their own money.
Exactly.
I think there is maybe like two sort of good counterexamples that I've seen. One is in the automotive space. In some of the big three autos, they have a very involved cost engineering team,
right?
Where they'll do a very detailed should cost. They know all the rates, they know all the materials. And so they can actually measure procurement on like the theoretical to actual purchase price variance, or the gap. And so, you'll never get to the real theoretical price because for whatever reasons, but there's with a lot of work, you can kind of measure how folks are doing. The other example that I think we see a lot is the consulting world. And the reason is because you have, to use a tech term, an A/B test, a before and an after. So attribution is very clear. Before Carney came in or before McKinsey came in, this was the state of play. And then when we left, this was the new cost basis for us. And that delta is directly attributable to us.
Right.
I thought it through the idea of savings commissions, right? What could you give someone the percentage of savings? But the problem is it creates this perverse incentive, like, oh, we should start really high and then work our way down. So the repeat game fails, but the one and done kind of works. And that's how you get firms that will work on contingency, right?
Exactly.
And or they'll do an fee at risk engagement, but the numbers are enormous, right?